In September 2025, Google laid off 200 contract workers. These were not engineers, not salespeople. They were the people hired to train Gemini, Google's AI model, to be sharper, more accurate, more human. They spent months feeding it their knowledge, correcting its mistakes, teaching it how a real person would answer a question. When the model was good enough, Google didn't need them anymore. They trained their replacement, and they knew exactly what they were doing. Not a startup, not some company you've never heard of. Google. I should tell you something before this goes any further. I use AI every day. I used it while making this video. And honestly, I don't know which side of this story I'm on. Because the same tool I used to work faster is the same tool that made 200 people unnecessary. That is not a comfortable thing to say, but it is the truth. But here is the thing nobody tells you about being replaced by AI. It doesn't happen the way you imagine. There is no dramatic meeting, no speech from management about the future of the company. It starts with a tool, a nice tool, a helpful one. This will make your job easier, they say, and they're right. It does. So you use it. You teach it. You show it how you handle a difficult call, how you summarize a conversation, how you close a case. You get faster. You look productive. Your manager is happy. Then one day, you realize what you've been doing. You've been documenting your own obsolescence. In July 2025, a former employee at Rogers Communications, one of the largest telecoms in Canada, posted on Reddit. The company had introduced an AI summary tool. Every agent was required to use it. The tool recorded how they handled calls, how they summarized issues, how they resolved problems. We were told it would help us work faster, the employee wrote. Instead, it learned how we work. And then we were gone. Over 1,000 employees were let go. Not because they failed, because they were too good at teaching the machine. And it wasn't just them. In early 2024, Duolingo, the language learning app, used by hundreds of millions of people, offboarded roughly 10% of its contract workforce. Writers, translators, people who understood the nuance of language, the culture inside a phrase, the difference between what a word means and what it actually says. For the people inside those teams, it didn't feel like a transition. It felt like an ending no one acknowledged. The CEO called it an AI-first approach. The official line was, "We didn't lay them off. Their projects ended," which was technically true. The projects ended because the people doing them were no longer needed. There is something strange about a language app, firing the people who actually understand language. But there is something even stranger about the way it was announced. Not with an apology, not with a transition plan, with a euphemism. Their projects ended. That is how it sounds when a company erases people, while pretending it didn't. But it didn't stop there. In early 2024, Klarna, the Swedish fintech company, announced that its AI chatbot was now handling 2/3 of all customer conversations. 700 full-time agents. Gone. Resolution time dropped from 11 minutes till under 2. For a moment, it looked like the future had already arrived. Then it collapsed, and nobody saw it coming in time. Customer satisfaction scores dropped. The AI couldn't handle fraud disputes. It failed at empathy. It couldn't tell the difference between a billing error and a human being in distress. The company started asking engineers and marketing staff to handle customer complaints. People with no training and support were patching holes the AI kept tearing open. By mid-2025, Klarna was quietly hiring human agents again. 700 people lost their jobs. A year later, the CEO admitted, "We went too far." But by then, the people were already gone. This is where it stops being about companies. In April 2025, Shopify CEO Toby Luckey sent a memo to every employee at the company. It said, "Before you ask for more headcount, you must prove why AI cannot do the job instead. Before you can hire a human being, you must first demonstrate that a machine cannot replace them." In May 2025, the CEO of Fiverr, a platform built entirely on connecting businesses with human freelancers, told his own people, "AI is coming for your jobs." Heck, It's coming for my job too. For months later, Fiverr cut 30% of its workforce. A platform that existed to sell human talent was now telling its own people that human talent might no longer be enough. So far, this has been a story about jobs, about companies cutting costs and workers paying the price. That story is real, but it is only the surface, because underneath it, something stranger is happening, something that has never happened before in human history. In every previous revolution, the workers who built the machines were not also the raw material. Steelworkers didn't teach robots how to weld by welding next to sensors that recorded their every move. Telephone operators didn't train the automated switchboard by narrating every call they connected. But today, something different is happening. The people who are being replaced are the same people whose knowledge, instincts, and judgment were extracted to build the thing replacing them. That is not a layoff. That is something we don't yet have a name for. It creates something we don't have a word for yet. Not quite betrayal, because nobody promised you safety. Not quite theft, because you gave it willingly. Not quite progress, because progress is supposed to include the people who made it possible. It is the feeling of being useful and then being used, and not knowing when one became the other. I think about one of those Google contractors sometimes. Not the numbers, not the headline, just one person. Someone who spent months teaching an AI how to answer questions the way a thoughtful person would. How to be patient, how to be clear, how to sound like someone who cares. She wasn't building a product. She was giving something of herself. Her judgment, her instinct for what sounds human and what doesn't. And when the model was good enough, when it had absorbed enough of her, she got an email. Not even a meeting, an email. And here is what makes it hard to look away. Her work didn't disappear. It became infrastructure. Somewhere right now, a student who could never afford a tutor is learning calculus from a chatbot at 2 in the morning because of what she built before she was let go. Her contribution was not wasted. It was genuinely valuable, and she was still discarded. Her work mattered. She just didn't. I wonder if she ever talks to the model now, if she ever types a question into Gemini and recognizes something familiar in the way it answers, something that sounds almost like her. I should tell you something before this ends. I don't have an answer for any of this. I use AI every day. It makes my work better. It lets me do things I couldn't do alone. And I am not outside this story. And I don't know if the tools I'm using right now are learning from me in ways that will make me unnecessary tomorrow. Maybe they are. Maybe the way I structure a sentence, the rhythm I use, the questions I ask. Maybe all of that is being quietly recorded somewhere, feeding a system that will one day do this without me. If it does, the replacement will sound a little like me. The way Gemini sounds a little like the woman who trained it. Good enough that most people won't notice the difference. And that is the thing I can't stop thinking about. Not whether AI can replace you, but whether that ghost of your expertise, the patterns, the instincts, the judgment you gave it, will keep working long after you've left. Your competence, living on inside a system that no longer needs you, doing your job without you, forever.